Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a demo on the Clover hot hammer, which is part of their ironing tools collection, so stay tuned. I purchased two sewing related items after Christmas. This is a replacement silicone coated iron cover. I'm going to post the link to the one that I purchased on Amazon so you can read the reviews and see if this is something you'll be interested in, and of course the Clover hot hammer. The Clover hot hammer has been on the market for a relatively short time, but the concept of pressing guides are not new. Years ago, I saw a tutorial on Threads Magazine's website using guides made out of manila folders. These are the ones I made. And as you can see here, they're in increments of a ½ inch, 1.5 inch, and 1 inch, which are kind of like the popular measurements that you use to make your hems. These work well, and they've been working well for me for a lot of years. But when I saw the hot hammer, I thought it was worth trying out because of its many uses. It's not just a glorified ruler for hemming. So let's take a look at the specs. The ruler itself for the hammer measures 6 by 5 inches. The hammer is made out of 100% nylon. It is also heat resistant. So whenever you're using your iron, it's not going to melt the hammer. Now that's really important because previously hem guides were made out of plastic, which is prone to melting, and they were made out of metal. And the metal was perfectly fine, but what would happen is that you couldn't touch the metal. It will burn your fingers. So you had to put the hammer, you would have to make your crease and pull it away before you touch it. This cools down really quickly. So you're ironing in the heat, and then you can touch it and it's perfectly safe. Another good feature is that you could use your iron with or without seam and it would not warp the hammer. The hammer is also non-slip, so wherever you put it, it's just going to stay right there in position. There are measurements around the circumference of the hammer, including the most used measurements for hemming in bold, in 1/4 inch, ½ inch, and 3/4 inch increments. There is a 45-degree line to help you when making mitered corners. So let's do a simulation of a mitered corner. So first you do the hem. I'm going to do about 1 inch. Okay. And then you do the miter, which is just tucking in the fabric to the edge. Oh, very nice, very nice. Right, move. And there it is. Very quick and easy. Now the hammer has a cutout here that is a perfect 90-degree angle. And I guess this works, you know, you could get more use out of it if you're a quilter. But let's just say you like to alter patterns or draft your own patterns and you wanted to make I don't know, maybe like a skirt vent. So let's simulate making a skirt vent. So first of all, with skirt vents, you usually have to make the actual vent. So maybe about 1 inch. Let's go with 1 inch. Okay. Then you turn it over. You'll make another line. And that's the second line here. And of course, you're going to have to make another line that's a 45-degree angle. That's to get the shape of the vent itself, which looks like this. And then this line is going to become the new seam line, because that's usually how vents work. And of course, if you're doing this, you're doing it all the way up. But as I said, I'm just simulating. So I'll cut a little way up. Get rid of the excess fabric here. And this would be your skirt vent. Looks familiar? All right. Now let's just say you were actually sewing it. Then you would put your hot hammer. You would turn over the vents. And you would press. And then this would be how the way you turn it over when it's time for you to add your lining or for you to close it off at the top. So another thing that you could do with this is to help you form pleats or tucks. Now I saw this as part of the review. Someone actually used it to make pleats and they talked about it. So once again, we will do a simulation of making a pleat. All right, so this is the first one. And as you can see, for the pleat, I'm just bringing it over the fabric, positioning it, and then pulling excess fabric over it to wherever I want it to be. If you're making pleats, you would have to figure out like what measurement of pleats you want to make. But clearly, let me raise this up a little bit. Clearly, it can be done. So that is also another way to use the hot hammer, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you guys is this curved edge. Now, this curved edge is great for making pockets. Now, once again, if you want to make a pocket self-draft to add to something that probably doesn't even have a pattern for it, you could go ahead and do that. You could do this on actual paper first and then cut it out on your fabric. But if you just want to go ahead and just do it on the fabric itself, I'll show you how to do it. So first of all, you use the tool itself to make that cornered edge. Very easy, right? And then you cut that little piece out. And then you go back and you use the same edge to create the seam. So when you're making pockets, you have to turn it in before you run that top stitch to position it on the shirt or jacket or wherever, jeans or wherever you're putting your patch pocket. And this is going to help you do that. Now I was just thinking while I was doing the pleats that my ironing board cover is actually getting hotter than the hot hammer. It's hotter to the touch. This thing really cools down really fast, which is great for when you're working with these little pieces of fabric that you have to be constantly touching and manipulating like this. Okay, so you're going to shape it with the steam as much as you can. And then obviously this didn't move the whole time, which is awesome. Okay, you move that. Apply a little bit more seam to kind of like set the crease. And then you turn. And there it is. Then all you would have to do, probably steam it a little bit more, add a little bit of fusible tape to the actual crease, the seam itself, and just position it or wherever you're trying to position it. And you won't need any pins. It would be perfectly formed as how the way you want it to be before you apply it to the garment. So some of the pros for the hot hammer: it's a multifunctional tool that would last a long time because of the material that it's made out of. You are likely to find many ways, as I have shown you, to use it as time goes on. It's an accurate way to get precision measurements, and this would be great for not only fashion garments but also home dec, which seems to be the thing that people are mostly raving about using it for, and making bags, because you know with bags there's miter corners, there's all these different things that you need when you're doing bag making. The cons: a lot of people complain that it's too short. If you are using this to hem something like curtains or anything with a lot of yardage, it's going to take time because you're working in 6-inch increments. You know, thinking about drapes, that's a lot. So you may want to consider that. There's a cheaper way to get the job done. Let me bring back my manila folder concoctions right here. And obviously, if you're hemming curtains, this is probably a better way for you to go. It's cheaper. You could probably get a manila folder just, you know, probably from your job, for God's sake. So, you know, it's going to cost you nothing. It's heat resistant. However, they said, I mean, people who write reviews, they said that after time from leaving the iron in one place, it may get it a little discolored. Now, obviously, I've had mine since right after Christmas, which is not that long, but I've used it and it hasn't gone discolored yet. In my opinion, anything that you've had for a long time is going to show some wear and tear. I mean, you should see the iron and board cover I pulled off a few weeks ago. It was like discolored. So I don't really see that as a deal breaker. But do I think you should get this? I think if you're like me and every once in a while you like to add a new tool to, you know, to your sewing, just to give you motivation, I guess, just to have something new to play with, because I've been sewing for 8 years, and you know, every once in a while you just need something new. And I'm not going to buy a sewing machine or a serger every single year. So something like this is, you know, just something new for me to play with. I think that it has a lot of uses, and even though I don't use all of the uses, I may, and if I do need it, I have it. So yes, I think that you should get it if you fall into the categories. You don't need this. You don't need it. So this is actually just a treat for yourself. So let me know what you think about the review, and have a wonderful week, you guys.